We have on the sofa with us Darren Cahill, of course a player of immense note and a coach as well of some of the biggest names, Hewitt, Agassi, you've even worked with Andy Murray as well. What's been your view of this event and the way it's developed over the years, Darren?
Well, I think this event's a highlight for all the players. I think that's why you see the players at the end of the year work so hard to make it through to London. We saw Andy play 6 weeks in a row, which he hasn't done since he was a little tacker, just to make it here. And it's the same for all the players. And it's an incredible event, well supported by the public. The atmosphere is incredible. Unfortunately, us three didn't get a chance to play. We weren't quite good enough, but it's magnificent for the players. And just to be here in some respect, we're working in the media, obviously, but I was here a couple of times as a coach for two of the players, and it's a fantastic event. They do a great job. Yeah,
I mean, if you look back to Agassi, who, I mean, spanned, I don't know how many generations. He won it in, what, 1990?
I'm not sure. It might have been 94, 95, but I know in 99.
1990 Frankfurt.
Okay, so he finished #1 in the world in 99. I actually don't think he won it in that particular year. Actually, Brad Gilbert was with him back then. I was coaching him in 2002 and 2003. In fact, I think he made it 3 years.
Yeah,
never here in London, I don't believe. So it was in Shanghai. In Sydney, I was looking after Leighton Hewitt down there when Leighton was lucky enough to get through and win the event. Actually, that tournament catapulted him to #1 in the world. So he finished the year at #1. So an amazing event. 8 players, the 8 best players. And it has a kind of a different feel to it as well, because obviously normal tournaments you have 32 singles players or 64, and then you have locker rooms where all the players congregate. But here you come to London, there's only 8 players. You can get as much practice as you want, and you've got your own locker rooms, and it's kind of a different feel for everything about this tournament, which makes it special.
In terms of the way Agassi approached it as well all those years ago, was it something he would be targeting early on in the season, or you know, where did he put it in terms of Grand Slams, in fact?
Well, I started looking after him when he was 32. So he was already a legend, already a great of the game, so it was a little bit different. When I started working with Leighton, he was 12 years old. So I worked with him for about 9 years from the age of 12. And so it was completely different. I had a kid that was a sponge, basically taking in everything, and then went to a 32-year-old that had already accomplished everything. Yeah. And so it was a different perspective on the game. Obviously, this was a big target for him, but majors is everything. To a guy like Federer, to anybody that gets around about the 30 years of age that has accomplished that much in the game, it's all about winning majors, and that's the most important thing.
We're going to watch Milos Raonic and Kei Nishikori this afternoon. It just struck me, there's some similarities in the game between Nishikori and Andre, aren't there? Yeah,
very much. Well, two of the best backhands ever. I still think Andre, pound for pound, is the best backhand that we've ever seen. He can generate pace off a nothing ball better than anybody. Obviously, we've got some great double-handed backhands in the game today with Novak. We saw him. He's been in incredible form. But for me, Nishikori, just at the moment, you might have an argument after the way that Djokovic played last night, but Nishikori at the moment has the best backhand down the line in the game. Wow. I know he's struggling a little bit with the wrist injury, which is maybe playing into the way he played in that second match. But he can take that backhand down the line from a bad position on the court. He hits it with margin. He gets a little rotation on the ball. It looks like a safe shot. Anybody who plays the game knows that taking a backhand down the line is not a safe shot, but he makes it look easy.
It's safe when your technique's that good.
Yeah, and he has such a big pocket on the backhand as well, and that's why Milos has struggled a little bit against him, is because Milos has a great serve, especially at kick serve, that second serve, it gets up really high, but he's one of these guys that doesn't mind it above the shoulder. He takes it, he has a lot of power from up there. It's a little bit Davydenko-like as well. Yeah, I'm good friends with Brad Gilbert. I work with him at ESPN, and he spent a little bit of time with Kei. He would talk about the talent this kid had. He certainly believed he was going to be a top 10 player. It was just a matter of time. And he always spoke about the level of his backhand. Obviously the serve's been a bit of an issue for Kei. He's been pumping up the miles per hour on the first serve. The second serve, to me, is still a bit of an issue. Players can attack it. But his game from the back of the court and his comfort level when he comes in with his volley technique is amazing. So I didn't see it coming either. I agree with you. Brad did. Yep. He believed it was a matter of time. But the way he's done it, I think the two big things that have been improvements in his game, firstly, belief. Yeah. I think he's spoken about it, the Japanese culture. Sometimes when you step onto the court with some of the legends in the game, you're not really playing for the win. You're just playing maybe not to embarrass yourself, and he spoke about that, and that's what he had to get through for the first 3 or 4 years of his career. Now he believes. He steps on the court, he feels like he can beat anyone in the world. And secondly, fitness has been a big part of his game. He can now go the distance. I know injuries are still going to plague him throughout his career, and that's going to be a big hurdle for him, but now he can play 3 or 4 hours, and he's strong, as we saw at the US Open.
We're talking about the backhand, but I mean, his match against Murray, he was looking to get to the forehand as much as possible. I mean, that's become a big weapon as well, hasn't it?
Yeah, don't you think that's really been Novak, the big improvement since 2011 as well as the forehand side? Marian Vida, his coach at that time, spoke about how they did a bunch of drills to increase the hand speed on the forehand side. And Novak's always had a great backhand, but the forehand sometimes would break down. Now that's an absolute strength, as we saw yesterday against Stan Wawrinka. Those middle court balls now, he doesn't just stand there and hit backhands. He's dancing around and unleashing on the forehand, very similar to what Kei is doing. You're absolutely right.
Seems to be taking it earlier and earlier. Maybe that's just a visual perception. But what's your assessment of the playing conditions here, Darren, and how it's affecting things? Because we talked about that a lot, and I was hearing from Roger Federer, or reading about something he said yesterday. He thought that that's maybe why we're getting some quite one-sided scorelines here, because you're not able to kind of dig yourself out of trouble with some big serving. Yeah,
the speed of the court doesn't allow you to get those free points. It's always been a bit of a dead court, a flat court where the ball stays a little bit lower, and it's why Rafa has never played his very best tennis here, is because the ball doesn't explode off the court, so he doesn't get that benefit of the topspin. But, it's no excuse. The players have to dig in. They're playing against the best players in the world. I think we've seen a couple of instances why the matches have been blowouts. Cilic is struggling, obviously, with his form. I think taking the 4 weeks off has come back to bite him in the backside a little bit, because he hasn't continued that mojo from that US Open, although he did win a tournament just after the US Open. But I think the tournament starts now. It's so important for these guys today. Nishikori, Raonic are playing today. Obviously, Nishikori is playing for a place in the semi-finals, a possible place. But then we have the big one tonight, Federer and Murray. So for me, the tournament starts right now. The next 4 days are going to be extremely good to watch. And again, tomorrow we've got Novak playing to clinch the year-end #1. So plenty to look forward to.
Yeah, it's what makes the tournament so special, isn't it? And